Did not call bank.
Don't worry. Like a good coach, you made sure to get it in for me, though, Coach. You made sure to yell bank for me, right?
Somebody did. Somebody from up above, maybe.
Well, first of all,
how you
Coach,
guys doing?
We're doing great. It's good to hear from you. Congratulations on this incredible honor to be entering the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. Did you ever think when you started out on this coaching journey that you would end up here?
Absolutely not. I was just trying to do the best I could with my first job at a junior high school in 1972. I was just hoping to keep my teaching and coaching job. I never thought anything about awards or anything along those lines. It was all about, put a roof over your head, put meals on the table, and go from there.
What was your first coaching job? Was it actually basketball? Because Gary Williams at Maryland said he coached the soccer team when he was coached basketball and soccer at his first job.
Well, I did basketball and baseball. I played shortstop in Little League, Teen League, played Connie Mack League in the Philly area. Loved baseball. I really did. I still watch every Phillies game. They're not doing real well right now, but I got the Major League Baseball Network, and I watched probably 150 Phillies games the past few years since I've been retired. It was Brookhaven Junior High School, head basketball assistant, baseball, and social studies teacher.
Coach, growing up in Chester, we heard the stories. Obviously Coach Rainey and your dad aren't here, but what do you think they would tell you Sunday when you go into the Hall of Fame?
I would think number one was my dad. He was always such a good fan, a good supporter. He never yelled at any coaches. He didn't yell at officials too much. There was one incident where my first road game when I was at Platteville, very first road game, and the referee came by about 5 minutes into the game and said, "Do you know that gentleman down there, that white-haired gentleman down in the bleachers on the other side?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "How do you know him?" I said, "Well, it's my dad." He said, "Well, you better get a message over to your dad that if he doesn't shut up, I'm going to throw him out of the game." But when I was playing, he never bothered with any of that stuff. But I think it was really hard for him. He could never stay still. He would walk around at Final Fours with Platteville. He would just walk around the concourse, sit down for 2 minutes, get up, walk around again. He couldn't. There's no way in the world he could watch me coach. And then people told me later on that he would mumble, "I taught him better than that. What is he doing out there?" And I never heard about that stuff until later. But yeah, he was a big influence. And then Coach Rainey, how many guys played for the same guy for 7 years?
I was close.
In high school. Yeah. Well, it was 3 in high school and 4 in college. And when I tell people I played for the same guy for 7 years, they said, "You failed that many times?" No, it was 2 different segments. And then he was my assistant for a few years at Platteville. So we spent a lot of time together. He was the guidance counselor. I was president of the class, so I was always down in his office. I think the main reason he had me come to his office because he always sent me over to the hoagie shop to get a cheesesteak or a hoagie for him every lunch. So, and he didn't even give me a tip. That's what really hurt. But Coach Rainey had a lot of life lessons were learned through him, and it seems like about 90% of the people that I'm thanking with my speech unfortunately are no longer with us. So that's it'll be very emotional because of who we represent, who the award represents. It doesn't represent one person. It represents input from so many people, fans, players, coaches, everybody that's involved in cheering a team on, and supporting a team, financially, the people who donate money to places like Platteville or Wisconsin or even UWM, a couple of years that we spent there. But my dad and Coach Rainey, without a doubt, two biggest male influences for me.
Coach, take us into the speech that you've prepared already. I had a chance to talk with Coach Garda when he was at practice a couple days ago, and he said, yeah, Coach had to submit the speech already. He had to put it in there to make sure it fits the time slot. I told Coach Garda, I said, there's no way that coach is fitting into that time slot they've got, and they better get ready to stick around a little bit longer than that time that they gave him.
Brian, take the under.
Take the under.
Wow.
Really? Okay. All right, Coach.
Okay, so here's how it works. I won't mention any names, but Coach John Chaney went on for 55 minutes.
Wow.
If you remember Coach Chaney.
Yep.
He and then a couple other guys kind of got into some other things that really didn't need to be talked about at a ceremony like this. So everybody submits their speech. It goes into a teleprompter, and you stick with the script. So they're going to be anywhere between 6 and 9 minutes. Is pretty much what each person gets.
How hard was it, Coach, to put it into 6 to 9 minutes? Because like you said, there's so many people that you want to thank, but it's also one of those of explaining your journey, because it's not like we're just handed this. I mean, you worked, and that's one of the things that I loved being a player of yours. You taught me what hard work is. Like, we're just going to work. We're going to work every single day. We're going to get better. And that's just, that was your approach. And, you've helped so many young men have that in their lives now.
It's a process, Brian. There's no question about it. There's no quick fixes in a sport like basketball. It's all about, putting in the time to be better at the fundamentals. Don't beat yourself. All those things that we would talk about, and the little things that always added up to big things. And, you guys running those hills, putting that work in the weight room, the kind of people we had in those positions, the assistant coaches doing those drill work, the different shooting sessions and fine tuning your offensive game and defensive game. And it's so rewarding to hear guys say, hey, Coach, I find myself talking and using the same phrases that you used with us, and I can't help it. They go, I can't help it. So I said, why? Well, what's so bad about that? Somebody taught me that.
I've got a couple of text messages when I've been on the air saying, hey, we talk about that a little bit, haven't we?
Butchie, do you have a set of Bo-isms that you repeat or find yourself echoing?
I do it all the time when I'm on
Such
air.
As?
I'm trying to figure out now. But
Coach,
it just
can you
happens.
Think of some of your favorite go-tos that you would use with your players?
There was a gentleman, Brian Gilmore. His son plays for the Badgers. He played for me at Platteville on our first national championship team. And he, after the season was over, he was an entrepreneur. And so he did T-shirts with what you called Bo-isms. And there were about 20 things on this T-shirt of things that I didn't even know I was saying.
Somebody, knowing our listeners, Coach, somebody is going to send us a picture of that shirt before the show is out today. and we'll make sure Brian texts it to you, because I guarantee you people have these pieces of Kitchikana still lying around. So it's out there. So when we find that shirt, we'll make sure
It was probably used as a rag to wipe a car off, car wash or something.
Maybe for some, but trust me, for others, it is a cherished memory of a great period of basketball in Madison with you at the helm, and guys like Brian out there doing his thing, banking in shots that had no business going in, but it went in. And it goes in every time I watch the highlight, which is the beauty of when you make a big shot. It always goes in when you watch it after the fact. Have a great weekend up there, or out there, I guess I should say, in Springfield, Mass. Right?
Well, I appreciate it, guys. And you know what? I'm kind of Brian. When Brian sent me the text, you know, he's been called the polar bear. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes. Yes.
And unfortunately, the Mets have a polar
I know.
It's
and
tough.
And he killed us.
Phillies. He's hurting my Phillies. Come on.
Yeah, I know.
He hurt the Brewers. Now he's hurting the Phillies. That's for sure, Coach. Hey, Coach, I just want to say congratulations. Well earned, well deserved, and glad I could have a very, very, very small part of it. Congratulations, Coach.
Well, thanks, Ryan, and thanks for all the work you put in. And I'm glad you guys are having fun doing something like this. You guys have a labor of love working there.
Hey, every day is a holiday. Every meal's a banquet. That's why first GM in radio said, Coach, radio, it's not real work. Working on a hot roof, putting on tiles, that's work.
That's work.
We want to avoid that. All right, very good, Coach. A pleasure.
Hey,
thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
All right, have a great weekend.
Coach.
See you.
There you go. The Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame is in Springfield, Massachusetts. It's shaped like a big basketball, but it's just a silver sphere. I'm looking at it right now on Google. They should make the outside of it orange and pumpkin-like and make it a basketball, right?
Absolutely should. No question.
Get some money for that. Coming up, Jeff Levering will join us, talk about network as the seasons change and you're off to call more games. Good morning, Mr. Levering. How are you?
Good morning, everybody. Yes, the leaves, they are indeed a-changing as we wake up this morning.
Yeah, a lot to get to. Let's rewind back to last week. Are you over it?
Yeah, I mean, is anybody
That
ever
is a
really
lie.
Is there anybody really over it, though? That's the follow-up, Butchie. You never let me finish. Goodness
No, you're
gracious.
right.
I'm ready for basketball season already.
Get him.
No, it still sucks, man. Even on Friday was a really somber day for me. It was a really tough day for me. I had to keep moving, otherwise I was just going to stop and think about things. So I just constantly moved. I cleaned out my garage. I did everything that I needed to do that I've been thinking about doing for a month and a half, and it still stings. And you sit back and you go, gosh, it was 2 innings. It was 2 bad innings, and that was it. That's the difference between being in the division series right now and getting ready for a potential game 4 and then going home. That's it. 2 innings where things didn't go your way. And it spoils what was really a great season of Brewers baseball.
In retrospect, what did Williams do or not do that turned out to be fatal?
He didn't execute his pitches. I mean, I've seen the video like a lot of people have about him tipping pitches. I don't think that had anything to do with it, to be honest with you. He just didn't throw enough strikes. I mean, his stuff is so good, changeup wise, where if he's throwing his changeup for strikes, then he's still getting swing and miss. He is still getting weak ground balls and weak contact. So he just didn't execute. It starts with a leadoff walk. You can't walk the leadoff guy, especially when it's Lindor. Especially with the 2-run lead. You ended up getting a strikeout, then the base hit on a 2-strike pitch from Nimmo. Then Alonso did what he did, but it just, you can't compound the issue. You can't compound the issue with the leadoff walk. He just didn't execute. And to Devin Williams' credit, he owned it. He knows he had a bad night. He just picked a bad night to not pitch well.
Jeff, we weren't able to play your sign off, but the emotion that you had and the way and the words that you used to sign off on this season was amazing. And I know we've got a couple of talks on the Talking Text line, or texters on the Talking Text line that are saying the same thing here. Make sure you tell Jeff thanks. As a broadcaster, how do you put it all together like that?
It's really hard. I mean, and it's a lot deeper than just what goes on in the field, right? And you feel for those guys, you feel for the players, you feel for the coaching staff. And for me, I mean, I'm in a situation where, I've got a 90-year-old man sitting next to me who potentially has signed off for the last time. We don't know. We haven't known for 10 years. When I got hired here, Bob was 80 years old when I started working with him. And it's like, okay, well, is this going to be the year? Is this going to be the year? And for him, it's up to him. And hopefully he works for another 90 years. And you just never know what's going to happen. But the way that he signed off, and in that moment where we were playing our highlights and Bob taps me on the shoulder, that's one of the things that nobody really understands is that when he tosses to me for the post-game show, he'll always walk by when I'm on the radio. And if I've got my headsets on, he'll just tap me on the shoulder. And that's kind of like a nice job, kid. He's been doing that for 10 years. And when you don't get that tap on your shoulder, you're like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Did I have a bad day? I don't know what's happening. And you start freaking out and you kind of put your shoulder out there and hope that he touches it or grazes it. You go, oh, okay, well, everything's okay in the world. But Bob walked by and he tapped me on the shoulder as I was doing the highlights. I had one segment left and he said goodbye. And, it just kind of hit you like a ton of bricks, right? You just don't know. You're looking at the empty field. And for me as well, you're the last voice that people are going to hear for the next 5 months until spring training gets there. So there's a lot going into that too, where, you want to make sure you get it right. And I think the moment just hit me like a ton of bricks in that last goodbye. We'll see you in the spring. And as soon as I was done, I took my headset off, I threw them onto the book, and I just started sobbing. It was a really emotional day for me. And I know it came over across the air, and I appreciate everybody that's reached out and said that I was speaking for everybody in Wisconsin and how they felt. And I'll say one thing that nobody can ever say that I don't care, because I absolutely care. And I think I proved that tenfold the way I said goodbye this year.
Yeah. Well done. Beautiful stuff. Great to hear that backstory as well. So looking forward, the future does still remain bright.
Yeah.
So let's look ahead to the future. Obviously, there is a decision on whether to try to throw a lot of money to keep Willy Adames here. I'm pessimistic about that only because of the economics of baseball. I think Willie wants to give it as much of a consideration as possible. But otherwise, there's still a lot of good young ball players on this team, and so the future is bright.
It certainly is, and there's a lot to be excited about. I think, especially with the position player group, there's a ton of promise in what's to come in the future. And even pitching-wise, you've got another couple of years of Freddie Peralta. You've got guys that are coming through the pipeline that are really excited. Jacob Mizorowski, who could be in the big leagues next year. Hopefully a Robert Gasser at some point at maybe the midpoint of the season after his Tommy John surgery. I mean, there's a lot to be excited about with this Brewers team moving forward. They are young. They are still hungry. They are getting better. Of course, Jackson Chourio, the way he finished the year for the last 4 months. I mean, there's so much brightness and excitement leading up to 2025 and beyond. That you can really hang your hat on. And yeah, who knows what happens if the Brewers match up with the Phillies. Maybe they lose in the division series. And then the sting is even more. But the fact that they got there with the roster that they had, nobody had any expectations of this team going into this season. It was a phenomenal season. And they are poised to do even more next year and years beyond.
Jeff, what's the surprise this offseason? It seems like this Brewers team has always had one, whether it was the trade of Burns, even though we thought it was going to happen. We thought maybe it was going to happen more midseason this year versus the start of the season. What is that surprise?
I wish I knew, man. I've stopped trying to guess what this organization is going to do, because you think you're in a really good place. You're in first place, and then Josh Hader gets dealt to San Diego.
Yeah.
But that trade ends up working well with William Contreras coming back in retrospect. So I don't put anything past this organization. But what I do know is that if they do make a move, if they do make something that may startle you in the forefront of the move, it's for the better of the organization. It makes sense down the road. I mean, even the Brewers this year with the Burns trade, you end up getting DL Hall, who's going to be a stud, I think, moving forward in whatever role he's going to be in. And Joey Ortiz, who's going to be on this roster for a long time. Unbelievable defensive player at third base. May play short next year. You never know. So I think whatever the Brewers end up doing this year, and again, it could sting in the beginning. You just never know. You never know. And I just have every trust in this organization that they're doing the right things for what the system does.
Isn't that something though, Jeff? Because you do there's going to be, I feel like there's going to be a move. You're closer to it than I am. So maybe you don't feel that way, but I feel like there'll be a move. Everyone will be upset. And then we'll look back upon it and say, never mind. We don't need to be mad.
Yeah.
The Brewers are good. Like, we trust in what the Milwaukee Brewers are doing. As a kid, I couldn't grow up that way. Like, because they weren't good. Every move they did was wrong.
Right.
Now I can firmly say, all right, we're in good hands either way. Whatever happens, let's see this thing play out.
Yeah, there's a track record. There's a track record of success. There's a track record of winning. So whatever the moves end up being, if there are even moves, maybe they extend some players. You never know. Maybe they say to Bryce Terang, man, you are our future just as well as Jackson Chourio. So here's a long-term deal to make sure that you stay in Milwaukee. Who knows? That could happen too. It's not far-fetched.
Yeah. I look at the current series going on with the Dodgers and the Yankees, and they're both in trouble now. Yankees with a big game tonight, obviously, but Dodgers down 2-1. If both the Yankees and Dodgers lose, it'll be delightful for this reason alone. It'll reaffirm you cannot just buy a World Series. I think that's very important for markets like ours, Jeff, to give us hope that these expensive forays into buying player after player don't guarantee anything come October.
No, they don't. And that goes to show how hard it is to win. And I think we talked about this last week, guys, where, you could be upset about the Brewers not having a lot of success in the playoffs and But the fact that they get there is really, really hard. It's a tough thing to do. The Dodgers have won the division 11 times in the last 12 years, and they have one World Series to show for it, and it was a COVID-shortened season.
Right.
I mean, you could be the Dodger fan base and be really, really upset because you're spending all these resources to get these great players to build this super team, and stuff happens. Stuff happens. You make silly mistakes, and it leads to a 6-run inning. So nothing is guaranteed. You still got to go out there and you got to play and you got to win. I mean, look at the Diamondbacks last year. Diamondbacks make it to the World Series. Nobody expected them to be there. They're a, quote, small market, even though Phoenix is a very big market in itself. Anything can happen, especially in baseball. Anything can happen. I think the playoffs this year are fantastic. And I'm by the way, I'm all in on the Cleveland Guardians. Give me all the Guardian stuff. Give me Stephen Vogt for president. I'm all in on that train right now.
Really?
Oh,
More
yeah.
so than the other good stories going on, like the Padres right now. You're more into the Guardians. Why? I want to hear. I'm not as Guardian fluent as you are.
I just like, first of all, I love Stephen Vogt. I love him from his time when he was in Milwaukee. The first collegiate game I ever played, by the way, was against Stephen Vogt, and I got a base hit my first collegiate at bat. So that's a little fun nugget. So he ends up coming to Milwaukee. He's a great dude. They play a very similar style of baseball that the Brewers play. I just think it's a fun brand of baseball. And I know the Padres are going, but I'm kind of down on the way that they're playing. I mean, they're just a bunch of they're just loud. It's way too loud. I love
jackasses, Machado, Jerkson Profar.
Yeah, it's guys you don't really want to root for. I root for everybody.
I know.
Thank you. All I needed was the gyrating in left field. I was like, I'm good. I don't need all that.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yep.
But look, the Padres did a big pivot off of what they had. They cleaned
cut
out a lot of guys
million
this offseason. Cut $100 million. A big piece, of course, was getting out of the Soto business. Michael King was the big asset they got in return. He's unbelievable. I do like the fans. I like the fact the fans are nuts in San Diego for the Padres. And I also like, Jeff, that they lean into the color brown.
Oh, for sure.
There's not another team in sports. Even the Cleveland Browns don't lean into brown as a color for their team, like the Padres lean into brown.
Yeah, not anymore. They don't. The Browns don't. I mean, I love the old school Padres from the early '80s. That's such a good look. The brown with the yellow, and they're going back to it. I love it. I do. I had Mike Schilt as a manager in the minor league, so I'm close with Mike still. So I'm kind of pulling for him a little bit, even though with the Cardinals ties and all that with Brewers fans. But it would be good for him to see that. And it's always fun to see a team win the World Series for the first time. Padres have never won it. Cleveland hasn't won it since 1948. So that's why I'm kind of pulling for Cleveland too.
Right. And now we just get that stupid Strauss ad logo off the helmets.
off the helmets.
God, an abomination.
It was bad. Jeff, real quick.
We had no time to talk about the broadcast for next year. Can you quickly?
I was just going to say that's where I was going. Just a quick.
Give us the down and dirty net of MLB taking over your broadcast next year. What's happening?
Yeah, so the Major League Baseball took on Colorado this year, San Diego last year, Arizona this year as well in the middle of the season last year. And it seemed to work well. I think the Brewers have an opportunity to do some really good things on their own part. They can create a digital channel with some alternate programming, which is great. All of our broadcasters are coming back because we're all team employees.
Thank God.
As far as I know, so that's a really good thing. So we're all back as far as I know, and we're all under contract, and all we're doing is our mic flag is changing. It's just a different way to find Brewers baseball.
And the story said that MLB is actually leaning in on some extra toys and tools for you guys.
Yeah, very much
I was
so.
pleasantly surprised by because, they're actually going to add some bells and whistles, which is good because my fear was, sometimes these leagues, they go cheap and they don't know what they're doing. Baseball's not that way, apparently, so that's good.
Yeah, baseball is not. They're going to really lean into it, and the technology is going to be really cool. You're going to see some fun things in the broadcast.
All right. Next up for Jeff, Big Ten Network, be working with Jake Butt, Big Jake Butt, former tight end at Michigan. You'll be doing which game?
I got Wisconsin at Rutgers this week. Actually,
nice
back-to-back weeks. I got Badgers, Scarlet Knights this week, and then the Badgers at Northwestern next week. So Wisconsin folks can be stuck with my voice for 2 more weeks.
Well, 2 big
Not
games
stuck
for
with it.
Wisconsin, too. 2 must wins. So at
Big
least they
one.
get your voice.
All right.
Big win. Should be good.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Have a great call this weekend.
You got to take it easy, guys.
I'll be on the TV side, Big Ten Network, Jeff and Jake Butt. But, of course, we are your home of the Badgers right here with the great Matt LePay, right here on 97.3 The Game and our affiliates. Pregame with Reed Magnum and Nick Bruzewitz, 9 o'clock, Mike Heller on the Badger Radio Network, 11 a.m. kickoff with the great Mr. LePay. All right, good news all around. Coming up, Aaron Nagler, Cheesehead TV. We'll try to keep it focused on the Packers, but him being in New York, right there at Jets Drama Central with A.A. Ron. I have to put a quarter in that jukebox just to see his thoughts on that. He's next. You're listening to The Game. That was Jordan Love with Tracy Wolfson after the game in SoFi, which, according to local beat reporters for the Rams, they had never heard it that loud for the opposing team in town. And that's what Packer Nation does. And, of course, they listen to Cheesehead TV all the time, and they chime in on the Super Chat, as you call it, Aaron Nagler, on Sundays during the games. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning, Zabe. Good morning, boys. How we doing? Yeah, I love those super chats. Everyone mixing it up on Cheesehead TV. Every single game on our watch party. It's always a lot of fun. And, sometimes there's some hand-wringing. Sometimes it's not always positive, Zabe. I know that might shock you. That might shock you to learn.
I find you and Corey to be remarkably calm when things are hitting the fan. More
Corey? I'll give you nags. Corey, I don't know about that.
More nags than Corey, but even Corey, you're not just screaming homers.
No, well, we can be that. We can be that at times when it warrants, right? The thing that we love, and we talk about this often off the air, is oftentimes the meltdowns from fans occur in the first quarter of these games. The moment a drive happens for the opponent, or you go 3 and out on offense, there's the entirety of the game remaining, yet the chats get filled up with, this defensive coordinator was the wrong choice, or this linebacker has to be cut, he's got to be benched, he's terrible. And it's like, can we just let the game kind of play out? Maybe even just for a half before we start firing people? I don't know. So I think it's partly because we've just watch so many games throughout our life at this point.
That's what comes.
You know what I mean?
There's a real veteran sense to both of you guys. And of course, your favorite phrase is
a lot of ball game left. A lot of
ball game left. Even when there is not, in fact, a lot.
Always. That's the key, though. There always is a lot of ball game left.
Well, with 3 timeouts, you're God in the final 2 minutes.
You can do a lot.
That's why you need to keep all 3 timeouts. Nagler brought to you as part of our Packer Insider segments, brought to you by Rogers Behavioral Health, Hildebrand Law, the great taste of Miller Lite and Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin. There is a difference. Also, shout out to Corey for that left receiver glove discipline all game long on the broad. I mean, I'm watching it going, he's got that glove on. I can't believe it. The whole game. There it is.
It's part of his thing now because, years and years ago, he wore them just as on a lark, right? And one of the local cameramen for one of the local TV stations, whose name escapes me at the moment, but responded on a clip on Twitter, like, look at this jerk with his receiver gloves. And Corey has literally worn them every single broadcast since.
Isn't it only on the left hand now?
Some occasionally is one-handed. Sometimes it's both. If coach comes on transplants, he'll use both. But
it's hard to function typing or adjusting settings on your camera.
There's finite minutia that you have to take care of. Yeah, you got to go with one.
Okay, so you're right there. You're right there at Rogers Central. What is the one thing in the wake of this bombshell yesterday that you cannot, Nags, get out of your head about the whole thing and the way it's playing out?
I'll never forget when I think we were about a week or so away from the trade actually going down 2 years ago. And a former Packers personnel person who now is in a personnel office with a different team in the league texted me and said, this is like out of nowhere. There was nothing prompting it as far as on my end. He just texted me.
Oh, nice.
This is like watching someone running into a burning building, a friend of yours, regarding the Jets and their fans and the organization, running into a burning building and being unable to stop them. And it's weird because I don't entirely blame Aaron Rodgers because this is a team that wanted him. You're pushing 40. You're absolutely at the end of your career, but here's an opportunity to A, continue playing, and B, get paid a boatload of money to do it. C, get treated like the savior. Now, obviously, things have transpired that have made that not the case, but it all feels so inevitable. There's not a moment here where there's been a true shock, I think, for most Packers fans as far as how this was always going to play out. So when Saleh gets fired, yes, there's the kind of moment of, oh, wow, I didn't think that would happen that fast, but that felt pretty inevitable. And I tell you what, 2 weeks ago when Rodgers was at the podium after they lost to the Broncos, and he was asked about using his cadence and if they needed to dial that back. Saleh said, maybe we need to dial that back a little bit. And Rodgers' very immediate response was, that's one way to go about it, or we could hold guys accountable. Saleh was cooked right there. That was the beginning of the end.
Elliot Wolf shouldn't be texting you that, though. I mean, come on.
It wasn't Elliot Wolf.
He shouldn't be texting the division. Okay.
It's a good guess, but
I was trying. I'm trying.
Not correct. AFC team, though, so props for that.
Okay. All right. But when you look at it real quick, like you see Rodgers, you see this play out. Like it's so similar between Favre and I think Favre was so much bet, right? Like Favre had a chance to be in the Super Bowl. Really, yeah. Was right there
and was good in New York too. That one season before he got hurt. Absolutely.
And I think Rodgers will have a better now second half of the season. I just do. It's just the way he's wired. Like it just you throw adversity at the guy and he just thrives.
No one talks about too is they faced really tough defenses. And I understand he's supposed to be the
don't give me that
MVP.
Look. Don't tell me that Aaron Rodgers didn't thrive through adversity because he always did.
Here's what I'm giving you the stink face on because this radio nobody can see me. Although we are streaming live, right, Luddy?
We are
streaming live right now on Twitter. I gave you the stink face when you said he's going to have a great second half of the season.
I do.
You know why? He's going to get broken, and he's going to be done for the year.
Man.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm not rooting for it.
There's going to be a trade for Devontae because that's just what a Jets thing to do.
That is a Jet thing to do.
It's a Jet thing to do. He's going to do that. They're going to play well. They might even still make the playoffs because look at where that division's at.
That is part of it, right?
First move they made, even before they landed him, was to get Alan Lazard at way too high of a price. He's been a non-factor. Randall Cobb was a joke. 11 games, 5 catches last year. Tim Boyle, gone. Nathaniel Hackett's the big one. His love for Hackett is unbelievable, and yet Hackett runs this antiquated offense that apparently is part of the problem. Right?
Well, and it's crazy, too, when you see the report come out, and it was great. I loved after the bombshell happens, Saleh's out, and then all of a sudden you've got reporters in the next hour or so who all obviously are lining up to text or call Saleh, and you start getting like his side of things where he legit had a meeting with his staff talking about how he was going to take play calling away from Hackett, and then immediately after that meeting gets fired. Like, what? Okay, I don't have to
it's not
be a detective here. I mean, it's incredible to me. But yeah, the offense is crazy to me because they've added some modern stuff. They've got orbit motion every once in a while. They've got some condensed formations. But man, it is so funny to remember how fractious it was between Rodgers and McCarthy at the end of McCarthy's tenure, right? And Rodgers really wanted to play in a modern offense. Well, insert Matt LaFleur, but he then kind of bristled at every modern thing that LaFleur tried to implement. And now you watch him with Hackett in New York, and it's like they're running McCarthy stuff again. It's all static. It's all ISO routes. It's all win your one-on-one, and he's just got to pick a side, which is usually wherever Garrett Wilson is. It's baffling to me that he was so anti-McCarthy, but now he's essentially running McCarthy's offense. Old McCarthy's offense.
Do we see Saleh in Green Bay this year?
I doubt it. I know Albert Breer talked to him, and Saleh indicated that he's going to go on vacation with his family, take a breath, and then obviously have his pick of defensive coordinator spots. He'd be a special assistant to the defensive coordinator. I'm fine with that. Hey man, just sit down there, break down some tape.
That's
I'll tell you what,
too many chefs in the kitchen for you.
Not for me. I mean, that's it. That's Matt LaFleur's best man at his wedding. You can find a spot for him. And here's the thing. He can work remote. He can work from Door County. He can sit up there, just break down the tape, give him his tips.
Good,
He's got a place in Door County?
No, I'm saying if he wants to go on vacation, he can go to Door County.
You take away all that stuff, my brain goes to, man, he's got a place in Door County? Okay. Wow.
I mean, he will soon, Butch. He will soon.
True.
I like what Hafley is doing, so I don't know why.
I do too, but I don't think that bringing in a guy who clearly is one of the better defensive minds in the league. Yes, he had his issues as a head coach, but man, not only is he a great defensive coach, he really knows this defense. A lot of what Hafley is doing is based off of what Saleh has done in New York and what he did in San Francisco, where Hafley was on staff. So I don't hate that idea.
Well, look at the former D coordinators who are killing it right now that had their brief stint as head coach, didn't work out. Brian Flores in Minnesota,
Spagnuolo in Kansas City.
Kansas
Bags
City.
in Kansas City.
He was lost as
And,
head coach, and he looks amazing as a coordinator.
And Denver's guy who once was having the time of his life, according to that Spanish announcer. I'm
Staley?
brain freezing.
Staley?
No, Denver's D coordinator, former head coach of Denver,
Vic
got
Fangio.
fired.
Vic Fangio?
Fangio's in Philly.
No.
It's going to
Well, he
drive
was
me
the head
nuts
coach
now.
at Denver.
No, I can't believe I can't think of this right now. A texter is going to come up with it. Anyway,
I'm looking
digress.
right now.
Let's go to the Packers. So you're
Vance
concerned
Joseph
Vance Joseph having the time of
of
his
his
life.
life.
Okay, all right. On the scale of 1 to 10 concern, where are you on this Dobbs tantrum that apparently has been taken care of?
I mean, what a crazy story. The idea that, we have gone now 2 years in a row where we've had to suspend one of our players for a game just to go, okay, let's pause,
Settle
let's
down.
regroup, and just come back like nothing's happened. I get it kind of with Jair because that was apparently a culmination of things, right? Man,
Now, what have you heard? What
this
have
is
you
my
heard?
point, though. This is like the reporting from Bill Huber, which I trust Bill's reporting. Homeboy just didn't show up to practice for 2 days after he attended the practice where they put the game plan in.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying that's really difficult for me to get past as just a fan of football, a fan of the Packers. Obviously, that really feels like you quit on your team. That feels entirely different than Jair going rogue a little bit, walking out for the coin toss,
Right.
doing whatever, being unhappy with the defensive coordinator, but still attending practices. To just straight up not only skip practice, but then not answer the phone when the team is calling you, having to send people to your home. I don't know, man. And look, I hope the young man is right. I know mental health is a very real thing. People are under lots of stress, especially in the NFL. But man, I'm gotta suspect there's lots of folks in the NFL who would love to skip practice, but are able to show up.
Negs, my thing
Able to be
is
professional.
somebody got in his ear. One of his people got in his ear. That's
like
my
it, right?
that's from the time it happened.
Right.
I said he got one of his boys or somebody around that says,
Somebody.
dude, you need to be the guy. You need to be this.
Why
And
are
then
you not?
he-
Well, which is funny because he's getting more
that's
targets
to
than
me what
anybody
it
else.
feels like. Correct.
But
And I said, but that's usually one of those people around you that are
Right.
giving you the
Pumping it
misinformation
up.
that aren't
Well,
there all the time. Like,
Butch, and that's to me is something we talked about on Cheesehead TV last week when the story broke. It's funny because it almost feels like a bit of a kind of result of having the type of roster they do. Because think about if back in the day, Devontae Adams tries to pull this stunt, Jordy Nelson is like, "What the hell are you doing?" All throughout kind of Ted's time, they had a hierarchy in the wide receiver room where there was a vet to keep guys, not only keep them in line, but to give them an example and show them what it means to be a pro. Who's that guy in the wide receiver room right now? Dobbs and Watson are your vets. So to me, that might be a bit of kind of, again, like a bit of residue of, okay, we've got this super young offensive roster, but that also means there isn't that veteran presence to keep these guys, again, not in line, but to show them this is how you are a pro, to take him aside and say, look, I know this is frustrating, but this is how it works. This is what you got to supplicate yourself for the team, and your numbers will come, etc. All those things, instead of hearing it, like you said, Butch, from your boys saying, well, you should be number one.
We going to spy Kyler Murray Sunday or no?
I think Adrian Cooper is going to see a lot of playing time to do, maybe not straight up spy, but to be an athletic presence because, boy, howdy, this guy with his legs. I know everybody saw the big touchdown, but against the 49ers, but he is making plays in the passing and running games with his legs. It's a problem. That's a problem. No question.
But you look at what they've done against the Eagles and the Colts, right? It's not like this is the first time they've seen a running quarterback this year.
No, that's very true.
Look,
They've been good.
I mean, I know he's a different beast than those other two.
Very different. He's very different.
But at least they've prepped.
To your
Right?
point, they've got a kind of a blueprint, so to speak, and they've been successful, right, against both of those guys. They did a
Absolutely.
very good
That's why
job
I'm not that worried
of
as far as
corralling
him
them.
breaking off a 50-yarder. Like they've
you should be
prepped for
worried.
this.
Hey, you should be worried about him breaking off a 20-yarder. And you should be worried about having him
I
dead to
get
rights
it.
and a sack on third down and getting out of it and making a 20-yard
Well,
throw.
that's why
That's what he does.
That's why I think
I do
Cooper
get that.
I think that's why Cooper is such a key piece this week. And he's played,
Okay.
he's come off a game where he's absolutely played his best ball so far his rookie season. Played, I think, 38% of the snaps. Is the most he's been on the field. I think that's going to ramp up this week as well. There's no doubt that Murray is a problem. I'm actually more worried about James Conner, the running back, who was, not dynamic. Like, you don't see huge highlight plays, but he's ripping off 4.5 yards per carry last week. That keeps you ahead of the sticks. That keeps Murray in a position where run, pass, he can make things happen because he doesn't have to overcome 3rd and 10, 12, what have you.
Yeah.
And he's been so good when he's been healthy. Well,
Yes.
he's healthy right now. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think he lasts the full season because he never has been able to.
Right.
But guess
he
what?
literally
He's
was the
healthy enough for Sunday.
He was literally the only running back who took a handoff last week against the 49ers. And he's one of those guys where if the game is still somewhat close, they were down, 10 in the fourth quarter, you can keep handing him the ball, and he gets stronger as the game goes on. That's why I really think this is another case of if you're the Packers, you want to get up early because the longer that running game is allowed to operate, the game is still a score or two. That he gets stronger as the game goes on. And we've all seen the Packers. They're not an insanely physical team. They're not a big, even stop them at the line of scrimmage, let alone get them in the backfield. I mean, how many times did they have Williams in the backfield last week and he makes absolutely something out of nothing? This is a cat who will beat you into submission the more carries he gets throughout the game.
The kid's name was Sergio Dip, and he was with ESPN Deportes, and he had this legendary soundbite. I found it on the old Vance Joseph thing.
Beth, Coach, it's a pleasure to be with you guys here on the field from up close, just watching Coach Vance Joseph from here. You watch him now on the screen. This diversity in his background is helping him a lot tonight. Quarterback at Colorado, defensive back in the NFL, and here he is having the time of his life this night, making his head coaching debut.
You know what? It didn't work out. Didn't work out as head coach, but he's killing it as a coordinator now, back with his old team, the Broncos.
Right.
Flores is thriving as a DC there in Minnesota. And Cliff Kingsbury run out on a rail in Phoenix as a head coach.
Most points in the NFL.
Daniels.
Most points in the NFL out there in Washington. Your old stomping grounds there, Zabe.
Yeah, well, they're riding high right now.
They are.
Quarterbacks get hurt, though.
They got a quarterback.
You get hurt.
Yeah, but you can't be a fan like that. And I'm not saying you're a fan, but I'm just saying, like, you're riding high because you're saying you enjoy it.
He's incredible. He's Lamar Jackson with better software and a better arm.
And you're right.
That's scary.
He is kind of
not willing to take those huge hits. Like, he's smart enough not to take the huge hits. Yeah,
exactly.
Hadn't taken them yet.
Nope.
But, like they say, everyone gets flipped on their lid at Talladega once and changes them as driver. We'll see.
Exactly.
All right. Mr. Nagler, as always, a pleasure, my friend. Thanks.